One of the great things about Jungle Scout is we have a lot of experienced sellers on the team. In this session, the roundtable discussion will feature advanced Amazon topics and strategies, such as how to get more reviews, how to manage your finances and inventory, and how to monitor your competitors. Let's get started.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go! Thanks, Jake. Now, without any further ado, let's dive right into the questions. So the very first one is, my listing was deactivated. I disputed, but it's still deactivated. What should I do?
Yeah, I could take this one. I actually have 2 listings right now that are deactivated for various reasons. And I would say the best advice is just to go through the Amazon channels, follow the directions that they give you. Even if you dispute it and it's still deactivated, you can continually appeal or just reach out to seller support. They often just want more information or you to rephrase your action plan in a different way. So just be persistent and follow the steps that they outline for you and you should be okay.
Do you know, Carly, if there's ever a point where you can no longer retrieve a listing, like where the decision is final, or in your experience, do you feel like you can usually always just keep talking to someone else or keep disputing it?
Yeah, I think it depends on why it was deactivated. I'm assuming that this is just not a true, copyright infringement or something isn't truly wrong with this product where it's not allowed to be sold on Amazon anymore. So I think there are those dead ends if it's truly not allowed to be sold on Amazon. But if it's something where Amazon has just flagged something incorrectly and you just have to jump through their hoops, and the product means something to you, you're making good money off of it, I would just be persistent and keep going through those channels. And if you don't like the first answer you get, you can always call back or email again, or I often will open multiple cases for the same issue. It just really depends sometimes who you get on Amazon's end.
Yeah, I suppose it may depend on the reason for the listing being deactivated, but do you know if there's any types of typical items that Amazon requests, or does that kind of vary perhaps depending on the reason?
I've seen it more and more these days just with like negative customer experiences. So if something is continually returned for the same reason, Amazon is just flagging that. I actually had an Amazon rep call me directly, which I hadn't really had before. And they let me know just last week that they're just getting tighter on these poor customer experiences and want to talk to the sellers directly and understand what the issue is and the actions they're taking and sort of help you through the appeal process. So that would be one of them. Yeah, just like poor customer experiences that have the same reasons over and over again for those high returns or high negative reviews.
I've encountered, Lenny, in certain situations where they may flag your listing as possibly having a pesticide or something. And so in that case, in that instance, they're going to give you and outline the steps that you should follow to be able to get your listing reactivated. So the key, as Carly talks about, is to just reach out to seller support. And sometimes it's going to be a little back and forth. We all know how annoying it could be to try to resolve these issues, but just be persistent, as Carly says, and follow the guides and the outlines. In fact, in this particular product that I'm talking about, I had to take a quiz, and it was just a very simple quiz. Just took up maybe 30 minutes of my time, and then it was reactivated once it was completed. Basically, it just outlined what restrictions, what's restricted, and how to properly manage products that are either coming like from China, being imported, and may be plant-based, and so there might be pesticides, whatever the case may be. And ironically, this product, there was nothing related to pesticides. I just went through the prompts and got the listing reactivated.
Yeah, that was the Jungle Snugs, right? I don't know how they connected that with a pesticide. But
yeah, it's just a weird, strange situation, but
I wonder if it's probably verbiage in the listing, because I have one that's actually pesticide issue as well. And it talks about different insects, but it really has nothing to do with being a pesticide. But when I discussed it with the rep from Amazon on the phone, she said the term antimicrobial is like triggering that a lot. So I wonder if it's something with the fabric, like how we describe it. But they told me just take the words out of the listing, or you could take the quiz. So there's multiple ways to fix it.
The quiz is boring, so probably easiest just to remove the word from your listing.
Just do it just before sleep to put you to bed. Can I change my name in the storefront to match my approved trademark?
Yeah, I can answer that one. Well, first, I see a lot of questions regarding the storefront name, and you can change that name at any point in time. So, when you first start out, you can just choose whatever random name you want to. But if you want to have it match your approved trademark, you can go in and change that, but you can't have any verbiage such as, LLC or any company related information in there. But if you want to have just your brand name as your storefront name, you can definitely do that.
Yeah, maybe something to add to that is just that you don't necessarily have to do that if you're thinking about yeah, I mean, like typically people won't usually see the storefront name, or it's not the most important thing. It's probably more so like the brand of the actual product that you would want to match your trademark in order to get brand registry. But
definitely avoid putting in the storefront name the LLC name, because I think a lot of people forget an LLC. If you have an LLC, is a way, it's like a veil, right? It's protective veil against any type of lawsuit if that was to be the case. So what's happening is if you're putting your name out there, the LLC name, you've kind of made it an easy way to gain access to where your company is registered and so forth. So I would always advise that your storefront name is not associated with your LLC, and likewise your trademark. It's just got to be very broad and generic. And so that's, just much like what Brian said. So definitely keep it broad. And a lot of times your LLC, I guess another issue that could arise is that your LLC is more than likely, if you're using a freight forwarding company, your LLC will probably be associated with the products that you're getting shipped in and imported. And not even just with the freight forwarder, just in general, if you're getting items shipped in, you're going to use your LLC. And so it's a way for people to hack and really quickly find where you're sourcing your products from, and who is your supplier. So that's why I just keep that separate, keep that to yourself. The LLC information is for your own personal business and like the function of your business. And then, your, like we talked about, the storefront name is just your Amazon business. And that, that third element of your trademark is your trademark, which is probably going to be a little more niche of the product that you're trying to sell on Amazon.
all right, moving on to the next question that was submitted: how to strategically run PPC campaigns for variation listings with a limited budget.
So I'll give some input on it. I think something I might recommend is if you've got a few different variations and a limited budget, probably focus it on maybe your best seller or the product that you've had up for sale for the longest, just to continue to have those sales on that listing. And then as you kind of decide to open up your budget, put it on those, maybe the low runners, the child variations that you have on that listing. Also would probably recommend that you focus on some of the more specific, relevant keywords for that product, as opposed to running very general PPC campaigns just on the words that you think are most likely to convert. So I think we're just kind of taking a narrow focus with it early on if you have a limited budget. And then as time goes on, you can start to spread out where you're advertising, the other variations that you have, and just kind of get a feel for it before you start to open up the budget.
So Cole, that would kind of look like if you let's say your variations differ by color. So running maybe like manual exact match search campaigns that are specifically describing like the color of the product. And that's a good way to kind of differentiate.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had in mind. Yeah, as specific as you can early on with those exact match. Maybe not as much involvement with the broad or phrase, or just only having a few words in there to prevent getting kind of too wide of a scope.
Yeah, because I guess there's different ways that you could limit your budget. It would be like the number of keywords that you target, and I guess the number of variations that you target. Those would be kind of two levers, I guess, in terms of what you could narrow down. So sorry, would you always say that it's still like best practice to only have one ASIN or one variation per campaign, or would you ever consider putting all of your variations just in one campaign to try to like hit them all up a little bit. What would you say to that?
So I don't know if there's one good way to go about that. Typically, I prefer to break out, say like a color variation. I like to have separate campaigns for that just because even if it's a similar product, sometimes words convert well versus another color where the word won't convert as well. So my preference is to kind of break it out, narrow it down a little bit by color variation into each individual campaign. And then you have control over the budget as well. I'm sure other people do it other ways, and there's probably good reasons for it, but just kind of what I've had success with was breaking it out by each variation.
Yeah, you could definitely do that in one campaign with multiple ad groups too, right? So you could essentially have your campaign and maybe you share the keywords across all the different ad groups or change them up, based on the color item description. That's something that I've done is under one campaign, have multiple ad groups for each variation of my product. So I have like 4 different colors. So in that campaign, I've got 4 ad groups, 1 for each color.
Yeah, and it's a good way to be able to see which ones are performing the best. So maybe if you started out with a little bit of budget spread amongst those ad groups, you might see that the blue variation is doing very well. So then maybe you might just focus in your limited budget just on blue until you have enough money to kind of like spread it out amongst the other ad groups. Moving through the questions here, the next one is, what issues arise when going from a sole trader to an LTD company? Always fun legal questions. Who wants to take that one?
I'm assuming they mean like going from just a sole proprietorship to an LLC or some sort of business formation.
Yes.
I don't think there's too many issues that arise. I mean, that's what I did in the beginning, just to sort of like test the waters of Amazon before I formed an LLC. I just wanted to see. So I just used my own name, my social security number. The only thing that I really ran into, which wasn't much of an issue, is just at tax time, you'll get two different forms, one in your name and then one in the business name. So you just have to handle that, whoever does your taxes, or I did mine myself. It was pretty easy. I just added the amounts together. But I think it really would only have issues at tax time. On Amazon, it's super easy to change that. You just go into settings somewhere. And I remember it being very simple to change that over. So no real worry on Amazon end.
Right. I guess, yeah, it would just come down to, like you said, tax and maybe like bookkeeping, because I guess like all your expenses would now be, against the company versus on your personal or the sole proprietor.
Yeah, it probably matters like what kind of business entity you set up. If you set up an LLC, it's passed through anyway. So it's going to go to your personal taxes regardless, at least in the US. You could time it so that you do that at the beginning of the year. So you have that clean break. I didn't do that. I did it mid-year, but I really don't remember it being much of an issue at all. That being said, I didn't form an LLC it was a 2-person LLC, but it really, if you're forming like a company, a business entity with many members, then maybe it would be more difficult. But yeah.
Cool. So the general consensus is that so far we don't think should be too much of a hassle changing.
I think so.
Not much. Like Carly says, that it is dependent on the type of entity that you create and you form. But I do also want to insert very quickly the disclaimer that we are not tax attorneys.
Thanks I forget that. Oh, listen.
This is just from experience. We're speaking from a personal experience, but definitely this is good information. Good questions too.
All right. This is an interesting one. What is the best A+ content that increases conversions?
I can kick this one off. A+ content or enhanced brand content. I think this is probably the best way to differentiate your listing, right? So they already mentioned like increasing conversion, and that's the idea. So obviously this requires that your product is registered. It's in Amazon's brand registry. So you have a trademark, right? And essentially this allows you to add images, enhance images and text placements on your product, your detail page, like your listing. And I think that it really allows the seller to create their unique brand story, right? So that's something that just helps it differentiate from all of the other products by images. So to answer that question, it's definitely images are the best way to differentiate, improve your click-through rate, your impressions, your traffic, and of course your conversions. And I think you have to approach it with that mindset of like, okay, because we've got the listing images or the product photos, but what can we use that enhanced or A+ content for? And I think that's the best way to kind of talk about your brand or your brand story, whether that's mission or how it helps the customer, like what's your unique selling proposition. And the best way to do that is just eye-catching images, also videos too. I know it allows you to add videos to your product listings. So definitely take advantage of that. But really just that kind of standout imagery that captures attention and allows the customer to learn more about your product, but also who you are as a brand. I think that's the best way to increase your conversion rate.
Joe or anyone else, do you have any thoughts on whether the images that you have in the A+ content, can they, is it okay to use the same images as up top, or do you think it's better to have different ones that kind of add even more value or just different perspectives?
I think if there was an image I was going to reuse, it would probably be a lifestyle photo. So I wouldn't, reuse something that's like the product with the standard white background. But if there is like an interesting or unique lifestyle photo, something that shows your product in use, someone actually using the product. And I'm not talking about like a poor Photoshop job that you can easily tell is fake, but actually getting a photographer to take some photos of your product in use. I think that's something that I would be okay with, like duplicating in the A+ content, because it's not 100% that every customer is going to see it as a main listing photo. But I would definitely try to spice it up and differentiate, and not just have those be one-to-one, but I think it's a good opportunity to add more unique images and product photos. That's something that I find a lot when I'm shopping on Amazon, right? Is I end up going to, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like recently I was shopping for something and I had a question in my mind, like, does this work with X or like so? And I couldn't tell from the main listing photos. So I scrolled down and they actually had A+ content, and I was checking that out, and I still like couldn't tell. I still didn't have a clear answer. And before I went to like the FAQs, I went to the reviews and I looked at the customer images and the photos submitted by the customer. And there was actually something in there that answered my question. I was just like, okay, cool, this is compatible, it will work. So that's just also, I think, something to note for sellers, like pay attention to your reviews, what your customers are saying, and the photos that they're taking, because I think it can often like give you good ideas to professionally recreate that and add it to your listing. That should really be like the goal, I think, of photos, is to show and explain like every usage of your product without having to have someone like dive through the FAQ or bullet copy.
That's a really, really good point, Joe. And going back to like duplicating photos from the regular listing to the A+ content, and then are things compatible, is in the A+ content, I would probably lean towards duplicating a photo if then in the A+ content, I'm writing, a paragraph or a blurb or instructions or compatibility stuff right next to it. So you have it side by side, which may not really work, like within an infographic, just in the images above, but you have all that extra space in the A+ content to like expand on, is this compatible, or this is how it works, or show it actually in action, and then add that extra text so everyone's questions are answered there and there's no doubt, and then they convert to a sale pretty easily.
Yeah, and the A+ content, I'm trying to remember what it looks like now, but on mobile, is that more prominent, or maybe even before the main images, or like easier to get to or something?
On mobile, your description will show up before the bullet points, whether it's the regular HTML description or the A+ content. And I think another thing worth noting is, with the A+ content, you can create much larger images than what you have in your regular listing images. They're not just the regular square images. You can have the big banner images and stuff like that. So you have a lot of space to create these great infographics, like Joe said, answer any questions that people may have. And also when you're creating the A+ content in Seller Central, you have the option to preview it on both desktop and mobile, just to make sure that it all looks good. So, I suggest playing around with the templates and moving some sections around so it fits your brand or your product the way you want it to.
What is the best strategy to lower ACOS? People loving these PPC questions.
Oh yeah, you gotta love the PPC. I wish Liren was on here with us because he could definitely tackle these. But I've paid attention during enough of his content, or I could maybe give a few tips and tricks. So ACOS, your advertising cost of sale, or ROAS, your return on ad spend. I think it's pretty expected that this is going to be high when you're first launching your product. So definitely don't get scared if it is over 100%. Typically, when I launch a product, my ACOS is over 100%, and that's pretty typical when you're just starting out, right? Especially if you're going to do an automatic campaign. So my big advice, and I think something that I do to bring that down over time, is negative keywords. So when I start with an auto campaign, it's casting a wide net. It's putting your product in front of a bunch of different keywords that it thinks is relevant. And if you're going in, maybe 2 or 3 times a week and looking at your ad reports, chances are you're going to find some keywords where you're spending maybe tens, dozens, or hundreds of dollars in some cases on something that has a really low conversion rate or a low click-through rate, or is just completely irrelevant to your product too. So be sure to take those keywords and throw them in as negative keywords. So you stop spending money on keywords that aren't working, they aren't converting, and they aren't driving sales. And then it's kind of just like doubling down on what is working. What does have a high conversion rate? Can I up my bid on this keyword? And yeah, sort of picking out these things and putting them in the other campaigns as well, like doubling down with another exact match campaign or broad match on a specific list of keywords. But I'll pass this to someone else for sure on the PPC note. But my one tip would definitely be utilize those negative keywords, because there's definitely going to be some money being spent that's not relevant to your product.
I think that's all really good advice. The only thing that I will add to that is the lowering your ACOS isn't the only strategy, right? So it's really about what is your strategy and what is your goal. So if you're spending money to make more money, so not lowering your ACOS, but just improving your profitability, that's also a strategy. That is not just centered around lowering your ACOS. It's probably just centered around selling more with less advertising, increasing your organic rank. But there are many strategies around advertising, and lowering your ACOS isn't the only one. But I think people just get hung up in that honeymoon phase, that first phase of launching a product, and just see bleeding money. And if you just keep an eye on it, like Joe said, negative keywords, all that kind of stuff, you really have to stay in those ad campaigns day in and day out to just monitor and then come up with a good long-term strategy.
Yeah, I'll echo that, Carly. I went through this recently with $1 million case study and launching the new product that we have, and we're spending quite a lot on PPC upfront. And like you said, there are lots of different PPC strategies. I'd say the 2 most common ones, it's like you're either optimizing to get sales, so you just want to get sales no matter what the cost, or you're trying to become as profitable as you can. So that's where you are trying to lower your ACOS. Whereas when I was launching these washable pee pads, all I cared about was just getting sales on the board. So I didn't mind how much we spent, because I knew that was going to help organic ranking and kind of help the listing launch and take off over time. So yeah, I definitely totally agree with that. Then another bit of advice that I got from Liren's session, which is, it's obvious, but I think it's worth mentioning. He said something along the lines of like, PPC only works on a good listing. So just always keep that in the back of your mind, that listing optimization, making that as good as it can be, is going to be really important to help lower your ACOS and just have successful PPC campaigns in general. This is an interesting one. Can you get affiliate commissions on your own FBA products? This isn't something I've ever tried. I think I've heard different things, but does anyone here have experience with that?
I don't have any experience with it, but I have looked into this before. I think we've gotten a question from a customer in the past regarding this, and it does appear that you can do this. I think it's kind of one of those gray areas with Amazon. They don't specifically call out that it's acceptable. But I know from the research that I went through and what I was able to find, it does seem like this is something that I guess is acceptable according to Amazon standards.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I do a lot of affiliate marketing myself, and I've never I'm not thinking black hat tactics enough. That this is pretty interesting, running affiliate commissions on your own product. Yeah, you totally can do that. I guess it's almost like, why not? If you're going to have a heavy, strategy of looking outside Amazon to drive traffic to your listing. So maybe you're like making a TikTok video about your product and its use. Why not send people to your Amazon listing, not only to get you a sale, but also earn an affiliate commission on top. I would say like those affiliate commissions are going to be rather small though, right? So I'm not sure if there's any, I would just do a little research first, if there's like been any cases of people getting like banned or suspended from doing this. Because it definitely wouldn't be worth it for me. If I'm going to add like 10 cents in profit for every sale that I have, but at the risk of getting banned, I'm going to say it's not going to be worth it for me at the end of the day. So I would try to find any like firsthand stories of that happening. But I kind of just want to rant on affiliate marketing and kind of the potential there for marketing your product. I think if anyone's like dove in on TikTok, there's a ton of products being shared, especially Amazon products via TikTok. I know our blog has a post about like, made on TikTok, these products that are trending. And then we look at the extension data and their sales skyrocketing. There's a lot of these series, like people saying products you didn't, you needed on Amazon. So this makes me think like, okay, well, why are these people doing this? Well, they're sending people to these Amazon listings with an affiliate link, right? So they're earning a commission on every sale that they drive to that listing. So this is definitely a strategy that it can be part of a launch strategy and just ongoing like marketing and driving. Amazon loves traffic that hits your listing that comes off of Amazon. Like that's really going to help improve your rank on Amazon organically. And so essentially what you could do, if you have a product, you can find influencers or content creators in the niche, or just the general content creators that are making content about products that people should buy on Amazon. Send them your product for free, and then ask if they can create an affiliate link and make some videos about the product. Because essentially you're just giving away your free product, and then you're only paying them per sale that they bring you. So that's what's awesome about affiliate marketing, is you're only paying per sale. So it's not like you have to pay someone $1,000 up front for a video review on your product that might not lead to any sales. They're essentially just taking a commission or percentage of every sale that they send to your product. So I think, yeah, you could do it yourself, but I think you're going to have better, faster, and scalable results by looking at content creators and not just relying on yourself. So
yeah, and that reminds me, Joe, definitely make sure you check out our session with Joshua Crisp. The link's up here from yesterday that went into great detail on how you can use social media and kind of external traffic to drive to Amazon, including influencer marketing like you've just spoken about. So that's a great one to check out to get more information on that topic. Do you notice any day of the week higher for sales? Has anyone ever noticed that?
I think it depends on what the product is. Sometimes they're like products tailored to the work week. Sometimes there are products tailored to weekend activities. But that's really, if I can make that clear distinction on why I think people are buying this because they're doing a certain activity or something is on their mind. I have seen sales for certain products lean towards certain days of the week. But generally, it's pretty consistent for just an everyday product.
Yeah, it kind of dives into a world of which I know very, very little about, but I was having some interesting conversations about Downstream, which Jungle Scout recently acquired. It's a fantastic PPC management tool, which I recommend you check out at downstream.com. But one of the features that you can do there, and again, I haven't really looked into this myself, but I believe you have the option of day parting or like sort of choosing when you are spending your PPC. And I believe you can analyze and figure out or see from sales like when you're most profitable, when you're getting the most sales, and then set up your PPC campaigns to be scheduling them to be like on Saturday mornings or at the times of the day or week that you're most profitable. This is definitely like a very advanced strategy. And again, I don't know much about it. It's not something I'd recommend for most people until you're probably at a certain point. But I think there is something interesting there that I'd love to learn more about.
Yeah, that also goes back to that question about strategy to lower ACOS or even like limited budgets. Day parting can be great. So you get that quality traffic so you're not wasting your budget with people shopping in the middle of the night that aren't actually going to convert. And you can spend your money when you know there are quality shoppers looking at your product. So yeah, day parting can be great for that.
Going to add to what you're talking about, Lenny. You mentioned downstream. It's downstreamimpact.com, and you can actually go there and request a demo. And that's where you can utilize this tool that helps with like the day partying and getting really advanced and technical on your PPC campaigns, but definitely worth just heading over and taking a look.
Moving forward, we have a couple more questions before we wrap up today. The next one is, would you suggest a different variation or a new product in order to scale a new store? So yeah, this is kind of interesting. I guess it comes in terms of growth. Would you, new product or new variation? Does anyone have any thoughts?
I mean, I would say if you had to choose one or the other, I would go with a new product. I guess it depends on the variation, right? When it comes to variations, I'm mostly thinking color differentiations or like size, if they're like packs of something like a 12 pack or a 24 pack. So I think if it's something easy to do that, like that, talk to your supplier. If it's just creating a bigger bundle or changing the color, you could definitely like micro launch a different variation, right? So maybe don't commit with the whole 1,000 units, maybe just in your next order, add 200 units of a different color and see how that performs. But as far as like long-term profitability and scaling your business, I would definitely recommend launching a second product first.
I'll just add to the side of creating new variations. That's something that I've had a lot of success with just because of that first product you launch, you put in all that work with your supplier, the design, hitting all the specs, getting your photography done. There's a lot of work involved with that. So once you've kind of gotten that out of the way and you want to go to, say you want to launch a new size or a new color variation, you've kind of already had all those conversations with your supplier. So it makes it extremely easy to kind of launch a new variation versus going through the process of launching a new product. So I think if you're in a market where you have the variation competition, I think it's a really easy thing and kind of a no-brainer for you to just add a variation on your listing. You're also sharing the reviews, so you've kind of got that buffer as far as launching your product. And there's already rank on a variation that's already been selling. So I think it's great to launch a new product if you can do that, but also a very easy option to just kind of roll another variation into something you've already got established. And it's definitely going to save you a little bit of time with your supplier and just getting that launched.
All right. So it looks like we've got our last question here. I'm entering my 3rd year of selling FBA in America. Would you recommend expanding into Canada or Mexico?
I would say Canada is pretty easy to go into. Just don't expect the sales velocity that you have in the US. It's a fraction of the size. I don't have any experience with Mexico, but I would say Canada just to get your feet wet in a secondary marketplace. And then Europe, the EU, the UK would probably be the most bang for your buck if you can get through all the paperwork and restrictions, but it's a much cleaner marketplace. They do a lot more vetting of sellers, and there's a bunch of programs to help people get started in Europe that Amazon's offering. So that would be my suggestion. Canada, get your feet wet, then go to Europe.
Another option, if you want to, maybe test out the markets in Canada and Mexico, Amazon has a program called the North American Remote Fulfillment Program. So basically you can enroll your US inventory into these other marketplaces. So basically if somebody places an order in Mexico or Canada, that order will be fulfilled from your US inventory. And the buyer in that country will be responsible for any customs or taxes and anything like that. I've tested it out. I've seen a couple orders here and there. I think it would be the velocity would be a lot more if you're actually sending physical inventory into that country. But like Carly said, it's definitely not going to be as much as the US marketplace. But if you want to get your feet wet and test it out, it's a free program. It's easy to set up. And it's just a way to expand your products.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Brian, is that similar to how it works in Europe? I can't remember the name of it, where it can be fulfilled, I think across, it gets, stored in one place, but it can get fulfilled across all the different marketplaces, I believe.
It seems so. Yeah, it seems it's a pretty similar program. Yeah.
Anyone else tried this before?
So yeah, I've been using it for, I think since when they rolled it out, which was end of 2020, and kind of similar to Brian, I've had a little bit of success, a few orders here and there in Canada. But for a lot of my products, I haven't been able to get it approved in Mexico. I know they have some different restrictions as far as customs and everything. So I've only tried out Canada, had a few orders here and there, but just hasn't really been enough to get me to actually ship inventory there. So just don't know if the sales volume's quite there yet for me to get involved with Canada a bit more.
All right, so that wraps up all the questions that have been submitted. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions over the last day. Hope you've all been enjoying JungleCon. Now, before we wrap things up, we'll just go around real quick, and I'd love to hear from everyone. What's one tip that you would share with anyone that's selling or thinking about selling on Amazon for 2021? What's your top selling tip?
Sure. I think right now, the biggest thing I've seen that's helped increase conversion rates is adding videos to your listings. Videos have really been increasing sales and conversions. Going back to that, you have to have a good listing to actually sell it. So buyers are just having more confidence with products that have videos. You can go into more detail about the product and give them confidence when they're buying. So video is all the rage right now.
I think my top tip for anyone that's looking to get started selling would be don't be overwhelmed or scared, right? I know there's a lot of information in the beginning, and when we're talking about sales, taxes, branding, PPC, supplying, ship, like it can be very overwhelming, but you're never gonna have to tackle all of that at once, right? I think the FBA and selling on Amazon is a journey, and don't get too caught up and worried about what you're going to have to do later. Kind of just focus on what's in front of you now and take actionable steps, like hopefully every day, towards launching your product, finding your product, whatever it may be. And don't be afraid to ask for help too. There's a ton of awesome, online communities and support groups and training content out there to walk you through it. But don't think like Jungle Scouts Academy, don't think you've got to binge watch the entire thing like it's a new Netflix show. Just start on the module that you're at and where you are, and when you're done, continue to the next. Because if you haven't picked out your product or ordered it, learning about PPCs probably not going to really help you in any way besides just stressing you out. So take it slow and just kind of focus on immediate actionable steps, and don't get overwhelmed.
I would say if you're running a private label business, is to work on getting brand registered as soon as you can. There's just a ton of benefits that are involved with the program, such as creating A+ content like we talked about. You can run sponsored brand ads, which are different than what a regular Amazon seller can run. You can also create your own custom Amazon storefront where you can run direct traffic to. And that way there's no other outside competition listings that are on your store. So it's all about your brand. And another big thing, I'll jump on the video aspect that Carly was talking about, is you can also run sponsored video ads as well now. So when customers are scrolling through the search results, you can have a video ad pop up right in the middle of the results that really stands out and stops people in their tracks. So there's a ton of benefits involved, and especially if your competitors aren't there yet, I would work on doing that right away.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things right now is just making sure you're planning ahead for your shipments and managing inventory. Amazon released a couple weeks ago, they made some changes to their inventory management. A lot of accounts that used to have unlimited restrictions now have some sort of account level restrictions. So I think planning ahead, understanding what you have to do to get your IPI score within a more manageable score so that you can hold more inventory at Amazon. I think that's going to be really important coming up to the holiday season. Also, just planning ahead with your inventory, order sooner than you think. I think shipment's going to be heavily delayed over the next couple months. So just getting planning ahead as soon as you can for the holiday season.
That's a good segue, Cole, for mine. I think it comes down to always having a plan B. One thing that this pandemic has taught us is that you need to have a plan B. One thing that we did and we shifted was having a 3PL service that's like on the ready, that can warehouse and store our goods, just because of these limits that Amazon put into play and just out of the blue, right? So this is something that you could start doing now. You don't necessarily have to have a 3PL service, but isn't the goal to expand and grow and be this massive empire? So in that instance, then just plan ahead, as Cole mentions, but definitely looking into all your options when it comes to managing your inventory and how else you can expand in terms of having on the ready, maybe even backup suppliers and so on. Like the list is limitless in terms of what you can do in planning ahead and being able to foresee, have a little bit of a foresight of what could happen and how you need to be able to adjust and change. I think that the whole pandemic has really taught us to be light on our feet and to really adjust and adapt as quickly as possible.
That's a good one, Rolando. I think my top tip for 2021, something that I think is more important now than in previous years, is to start considering off Amazon advertising and marketing. We've spoken a little bit about that today, about using social media or about affiliate marketing, but I think it's getting to a point where you really do need that as a differentiator. Now, to clarify, I'm definitely a big fan of focusing on Amazon first and foremost and exhausting everything there, optimizing your listing, adding videos, really getting to understand PPC. There's like so much that you can do there, but potentially before launching a new product, I would maybe then take that next step instead of trying out influencer marketing, maybe creating content or building your brand off of Amazon as well. I think that's going to become more and more valuable moving forward. It adds more value to your business overall. And yeah, I think that's more important in 2021 than it's been before. So that would be my top suggestion. All right. Well, thank you all for joining, and thanks everyone here for all the great answers. I hope everyone out there has gotten a lot of value from this roundtable. If you have, make sure to give us a big thumbs up down below. But I hope you enjoy the rest of JungleCon, and we'll see you next time.
3,
Bye.
2, 1.
JungleCon is not over yet. Make sure you join us for this final session where we bring back Greg Mercer to give you his best advice on how to take advantage of what you just learned throughout these past 2 days. If you stuck around this far, I promise you're not going to want to miss this. So I'll see you there.